Well, good morning, everyone. And,
Good morning. Now you wish you could come, right?
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. This morning I got up at 5 o'clock to get here because I was coming from Trenton. And so, yeah, it was pretty brutal coming up. And I was like, why did I decide to do this early?
And then you saw the breakfast, you're like, what's this about?
All of that to get about 4 minutes down the road at 179 Godwin Avenue, Midland Park. That's where my GPS took me. And so I pull up to this house and I'm knocking on the door.
Oh no!
Like, there's nobody here. And I drove for 2 hours.
Oh no!
So I was determined, but I figured it out that I was in the wrong place. I was like, there's no way that this could have happened. So, you know, thankfully I'm here today and a little late, but here nonetheless. So I just want to briefly talk to you, very briefly, because I understand that we're getting out of here really soon, about a program that's near and dear to my heart. But before I get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. So as you know, my name is Walter, and I've been in the state of New Jersey for about 12 years now. I went to the university, I went to Rutgers University. If any of you are following college football right now, please excuse us. We don't have anything in the Big Ten right now.
By the way, Andy Garlick's from Michigan.
Go blue, I guess.
Go blue!
But yeah, so, I had an incredible 4 years at Rutgers University. I was involved in many student organizations. I founded a student organization that did prison outreach through education. While I was there, I was, fortunate enough to be nominated and eventually received a really prestigious award, a national award called the Harry S. Truman Scholarship. It was an incredible honor that the university bestowed upon me, and it allowed me to go to graduate school to pursue a master's degree, and I was fortunate enough to get accepted and go to the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom to do my master's work. And so I always start off saying that because, not that I want to brag, but because of an incredible and extraordinary opportunity that was presented to me that allowed all that to happen. Because in 2008, I was actually sitting in prison for crimes that I committed in this state. And no one could have convinced me otherwise at that time that that wasn't the end of my life. I did have some level of formal education, but I had not completed college in any way. And I was pretty much convinced that the rest of my life would be, a rigorous uphill battle. And in many ways, it still is, but the things that I've been able to accomplish after getting released from prison has a lot to do with people who understood that there is a problem that exists in this country called mass incarceration. And so a little bit about mass incarceration. Mass incarceration is what we've coined this term, even though I'm pretty sure everyone in here is following the politics of this election and the laughing stock that it is right now, in my opinion, that is. But one of the things that one of the things that our Congress has agreed on is that we have to do something about the prison system because it is locking people up at an alarming rate. It costs taxpayers an exorbitant amount of money each year, and it's not helping people return to society and be productive, tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. That is what the point is. In America, we have 2.4 million people currently incarcerated. That is more than anywhere in the world. The United States represents only 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's incarcerated population. Some 70 million Americans, about 1/3 of us, have some form of a criminal record that kind of bars us from doing things or applying for positions. I mean, like, I can't even be an Uber driver these days. I've graduated from Cambridge, but I can't be an Uber driver. So The reason why I say all of that is because, you know, we have an unfortunate statistic that 2/3 of the people who get released from prison will return in the next 3 years. And that's just a result of the lack of opportunity, the lack of access to resources that will prevent such things from happening. And this thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, there's a bunch of context around it that I really don't have time to dive into about why people go to prison and who goes to prison and why crime. When I was at the University of Cambridge, I studied criminology and, you know, why people commit crimes. And I'm at in my heart of hearts, and I know that I'm kind of biased because I've been there, but I don't think anybody, you know, wakes up one day and says, I want to commit a crime. There's always context around it, a part of the story that's not often told. So I wanted to talk about the Petey Greene program because while I was at Rutgers, I founded a prison outreach organization called the Mountain View Project. And it was named that way after a professor, a tenured professor of Japanese history at Rutgers University who, you know, this old white guy who had never had any contact with prisons at all in his life or in his surrounding family. But he looked at the issue and he looked at the issue of mass incarceration and thought to himself, you know, there has to be something that I can do, even if it's a little bit. And so in 2004, he approached the university administration and leveraged his tenure to say, listen, I want to start a pilot program where I'm helping people who are formerly incarcerated get back into school because I believe education is the most powerful. With the understanding that if anything were to happen, this is all on you. This is not on us. And then he kind of, well, I mean, as best as it couldn't be on them, but it would really be on him. That program is still in existence today. And in 2009, I was fortunate enough to come through that program. And it was by the grace of God that even happened for me. When I say I was sitting in a prison cell in 2008, and the reason that I was even able to talk to this professor who I didn't know, who didn't know me, was because I was fortunate enough to have graduated high school. Most of the people in prison hadn't graduated high school at the time, and so I was the teacher's aide. And I would help people and I would tutor them so that they could pass the GED at some point while they were doing their sentence. And so this one day, and I mean, this is the honest to God's truth, it was lunchtime in the jail, the lunch mess movement. And so I'm standing there in line waiting to get my tray. And I promise you, it was like the voice of God came over me and was like, okay, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get your lunch, but you're not gonna eat it. You're gonna put it, we had little microwavable bowls that we had. And he said, put your lunch in the bowl and put it away and go outside. And it wasn't like outside, like I'm breaking out, but we were in like the, we were like, at this point in my sentence, I was it's called full minimum security. So like, I'm not really in cells anymore. We have like these big rooms that are like dormitories, and there are no more like buzz doors. Like you can kind of walk out into the yard area, like for recreation. And so, I don't know why I thought of this before, but I'd never done it. I mean, it was just so routine. Eat your lunch, you know, and then go outside when everybody else does. So this particular day, I just listened to this voice. I put that food away and I went outside, and it was the first time like in prison where I was ever like by myself. You know, you're really not supposed to be by yourself at all. Like that's a big deal. And so I was sitting there on the basketball court, like on a bench on the side, and it was like a beautiful, clear day. It just felt good. And then the teacher, who I was the TA for, came out of the main building, and she just asked me randomly, she said, Walter, what are you thinking about doing when you get out of here? And my mind went back to the previous day, because I was also a part of a program called Project Pride. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. They're all over New Jersey, run through the Department of Corrections. Project Pride takes people who are currently incarcerated out into the community to speak to different audiences about decision making and the consequences of such, using our own stories as an example. It's kind of like the opposite of Scared Straight. We're really calm. It's like this. And so I was a part of that while I was in prison. And so the guy was mentioning loosely, you know, might be an opportunity at Rutgers for you. I know the guy who's doing it, but you know, I'll get more information the next time I see you. So that kind of, my mind went back to that, and so I said, I would really like to go to school. And she was like, well, whereabouts would you like to go? I said, I would like to go to Rutgers. And Ms. Suzansky kind of took a couple steps back, and she was alarmed that I had said Rutgers because the guy was actually there at that moment.
Oh my goodness.
The guy was actually there at that moment, and he had asked her, he was like, I have a list of guys, but if you know anybody else, you know, let me know. And I mean, there's a prison full of people. I mean, she wasn't coming for me. She was just walking, and I happened to be there, but it was because I was outside early and I didn't eat my lunch that I got all of these opportunities. And I always look back on that day as just, you know, a miracle. It was just a miracle in my life. And so the reason why I'm here representing the Petey Greene program is because while I was at Rutgers, we partnered with this program because we thought that they were doing incredible work. But me and a few other students who also came through prison and that program to get to Rutgers said, you know, we want to really, this is like a golden nugget for us. This was an opportunity that none of us could have imagined. None of us could have imagined that was available. And we kind of want to, we feel a duty to give back in some way. And so we talked to the Department of Corrections and the Petey Greene program. We said we want to be tutors inside to really help people get along so that by the time that they get their GED, they're eligible to come to Rutgers, and then they can take advantage of the same opportunities that we had. Our program at Rutgers, we had more, we had collectively, we had a higher GPA than the general population. I mean, we took it seriously, and there are so many people inside who, you know, are dying for such an opportunity. I keep digressing, but the Petey Greene program was a program that was started by the Princeton class of '58. Many of their class members, particularly one sizable donor, started the program in 2007. And the objective was to offer high quality in-class one-on-one tutoring to incarcerated students across the state of New Jersey. That was their initial goal in 2007. Today, we are in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, started in New Jersey, in Washington, D.C. We have over 500 volunteers, all offering high quality, in-class, one-on-one tutoring to incarcerated students. Because we know by experience and through data that education is truly monumental in helping people reacclimate to society and become productive citizens. We know that for every $1 invested in education, there is a $4 return to the economy in terms of lack of not being reincarcerated, and everything associated with that process. And in addition to the taxes that person will pay once they become employed. The Petey Greene program consists largely of college students who are volunteers through the program. Each college has its own Petey Greene program. Our national headquarters plants programs at universities and gets students to volunteer 1 day a week for a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours, and that's including the trip. But they get cleared, they get trained, and they go into the prisons and they offer the tutoring. Our data shows that when somebody is engaged in educational activities while they're incarcerated, the likelihood that they will recidivate is cut in half. So they have instead of a 2 in 3 chance, it's more like a 1 in 3 chance. If they complete their high school diploma, it's down to like 20%. If they go to as far as a bachelor's degree, it's down into the single digits. And if you get a master's degree, you essentially will not go back to prison. That was my motivation. I gotta go to some point. But you know, we're just fingers crossed. But the whole point of my story is education was a savior to me. And not that I would have gone back otherwise, but education has opened up so many doors that led to options. Again, because of time, I'm not able to go into the context of things, but a lot of times people just need options. Sometimes the only way to survive and the only thing that they know is the illegal thing to do. And that's, you know, and part of what's led to this problem that we have, that we're paying $50,000 a year or more to incarcerate one person for a year when it costs $12,000 to educate them at a state university. We just need to get them there. We need to get them to the level of a GED, and the Petey Greene program is powerful in that not only does it encourage the people who are in prison who are learning, but there's also a transformative experience for the volunteer who can go in and kind of have a different reference point as opposed to the glorified TV version of jails and prisons, but actually see a face and somebody who's hungry to learn and somebody who's, you know, docile and grateful and able to articulate themselves, and just kind of turns the whole conception of what prison is on its head. And so I would love for this Rotary Club and anyone here who's interested in learning more or wanting to get involved. We're a nonprofit completely run on donations. We have a few funding sources, but mainly small donations that we're running on. And our goal is to become a national organization. We're expanding. We're looking in by 2018 to make a Midwest expansion, but we really would like to push education as much as we can so that we can really start addressing this issue of mass incarceration with one of the immediate solutions that lead to incredibly positive outcomes. So that's all I have for you today.